But I will read for you introduction from his book, The Shock of History. It is the end of the introduction. It's a somewhat long passage, but you will like. And it's a very direct statement of what he means by this idea of identity and identitarian. So if you want to understand French New Right, this is as good a statement as any. Higher civilizations are not simply regions of the planet. They are different planets entirely. Much like our own in Europe, Chinese, Indian, Muslim, Native American, and Hispano-American civilizations all have roots that reach back into time immemorial. These roots often dig deep into the depths of prehistory itself. They rest upon specific traditions that are passed down through the ages in ever-changing forms. They are composed of spiritual values that build behaviors and nurture representations. If, for example, sexuality is universal in the same manner as eating, love is then different for each civilization, as are representations of femininity, cuisine, architecture, the visual arts, and music. These all reflect a spiritual morphology, transmitted as much through atavism as through experience. These features make us who we are, unlike any other. They constitute our perennial tradition, our unique way of being men and women in the face of life, death, love, history, and fate. Without them, we are fated to become nothing, to disappear into chaos and to end into the chaos of a world dominated by others. Fortunately, our tradition survives in our subconscious, despite having been forgotten due to old divisions that have shattered our memory, a memory further scarred by the delusive belief in our universal mission, a belief that is dangerously wrong. More wrong than even Samuel Huntington could have imagined. It denies and destroys other cultures and civilizations, specifically those that threaten the universalist values said to be Western, that in reality exist simply for the benefit of globalizing markets and democracy, summed up in the triptych fun, sex, and money. It is clear to us, of course, that this globalist pretension rallies the resistance against itself, and even the revolt of peoples who refuse it. This universalist belief is also dangerous for those of us in Europe. It stunts our ability to comprehend that other men do not feel, think, or live the same way that we do. It is dangerous because it acts destructively upon our own identity. After having colonized other peoples in the name of universalism, Europeans are now in the process of being colonized in the same way of the very same principle against which do not know how to defend themselves. If all men are brothers, nothing can stop the arrival of others on our doorstep. In the past, when Europeans were strong and powerful, when they dominated the world, they had made of their Christian or secular culture, which in both cases was universalist and individualistic, they had made of it the tool by which they conquered, intending to impose it upon the entire world. This was shattered following the upheavals of the 20th century. Both world wars in Europe, decolonization, and the reawakening of ancient civilizations. What had once been a source of strength had become the cause of their weakness. Their old universalistic worldview has removed their moral defenses, in spite of their economic strength and a few vague stirrings of illusory power. Europe has been thrown, naked and defenseless, into a world aching to vengefully humiliate her. Elsewhere, things are perceived far differently than the average European could ever imagine. To help elucidate this reality, I would like to cite two accounts drawn from French experience. The first is that of Dalil Boubacar, rector of the Mosque of Paris and president of the French Council of the Muslim Faith. He explains that Islam is at once a religion, a community, a law, and a civilization. It is not only those who practice the 5 pillars of Islam who are considered Muslim, but all those who take part in this identitarian whole. He was quoting here. The key word here is identitarian. In this way, Islam is not simply a religion. It is in fact much more than that. It is a community, a law, a civilization. This interpretation runs parallel to another account given by the philosopher André Comte-Sponville. In a book about atheism and religiosity, he mentions friends of his who identify as atheist Jews. The term left him dumbstruck. One cannot imagine Christians who identify as atheist Christians. He took it upon himself to discuss it with other former classmate, formerly a militant Maoist. But do you believe in God? His friend smiled. You know, for a Jew, whether one or not believes in God is not really the issue. For Comte Sponville, who was raised a Catholic, this was antithetical to the central question of religion. His friend explained to him that it is a completely different issue. God does not exist, but we are his chosen people. For him, being Jewish meant being loyal to a particular history, tradition, law, book, and community. This loyalty has helped his people survive centuries without a state, a homeland, or any other refuge than memory and fidelity. When we are immersed in Christian culture, which is at once universalist and individualist, this is surprising. However, many other religions, even Islam, as we have just seen, and of course Judaism, but also Hinduism, Shinto, or Confucianism, are not just religions in the Christian or secular sense of the word, namely a personal relationship with God, but also identities, laws, and communities. The thinking that associates a group's identity with its perennial tradition can help modern Europeans who are often de-Christianized by a deeply rooted culture of secularism. It can help them find the strong identitarian ties that lie beyond personal faith or lack thereof. What ties? Precisely those of tradition. Ties capable of uniting Europeans with each other and arming them morally, so that they may confront the impending threat of complete disappearance into the great void of the universal melting pot and of Brazilization. In the same way that some consider themselves sons of Shiva, Muhammad, Abraham, or Buddha, it is important that Europeans see themselves as sons of Homer, Ulysses, and Penelope. The European tradition, whose origins predate Christianity, as Benedict XVI bravely reminded us in his Regensburg lecture of 12 September 2006, can be safely reconciled with religious convictions, or the lack thereof, since these have become a private matter in Europe. Whether one is Christian, freethinker, or whatever else on top of that, the point is that in order to resist and renew, we must rise above political and denominational variables and rediscover the permanence of tradition which has permeated our founding poems for millennia. These thoughts have been at the center of my thinking for a long time. The ongoing evolution of the world and of Europe continues to underline these issues. This is why, when Pauline Lecomte, a journalist specializing in the philosophy of history, asked me to collaborate with her on a book of interviews. Anyway, he talks there about his book. This has been the end of the introduction of Dominique Venner book, The Shock of History.